Hey guys, Doug from X Factor Tactical here with a double whammy. Before you is a Grendel P30. Many of you guys probably have never seen one before. And next to it is a brand new firearm, a relatively new firearm, called the KelTec PMR30. Both of these handguns are chambered in .22 Magnum. They're both designed by Mr. George Kellgren, who is a European firearms designer. Now works with KelTec. Do a quick review of both of these weapons here. The P30 weighs approximately 21 ounces, has a 5-inch long barrel. It's a blowback operated weapon. Has an ambidextrous safety on it. Has a magazine release set up for a right-handed person. Trigger breaks at about 5.5 pounds, single action. Primarily Zytel construction, as well as a 30-round Zytel magazine. Utilizes fixed sights, and the rear sight is not adjustable. It's actually a plastic piece that's bolted to the upper receiver. The front sight, which you really can't see from the resolution here, but take my word for it, it is a dovetail front sight. This weapon was available for sale from about 1994 all the way back to about 1990, I believe. And it ran in the neighborhood of about $300. I bought this weapon a couple years ago, new in box, for about that much money. And very accurate, fairly reliable firearm. Out of about 500 rounds, I may have only had 5 or 6 malfunctions, and they've all been with hollow point ammunition. Full metal jacket ammunition works great in it. I can hold easily all 30 rounds in an area the size of my fist at 15 yards. It's extremely accurate. I got lucky with the sights. Didn't really need to be adjusted. They are dead on. And neat weapon. Moving kind of into the future here, into the present day, we've got the KelTec PMR30. This weapon weighs about 13.6 ounces unloaded and just slightly under 20 ounces loaded, which is pretty unbelievable. Ambidextrous safety. Uses, and hopefully you can see this here, uses a heel clip, European style heel clip, to retain the magazine. And I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. And then another thing it has that the Grendel does not is a slide stop. And when you're talking about clearing malfunctions or safety checks or a variety of different issues, having a slide stop is important. The weapon has a 4.3-inch barrel, so velocities are actually a little bit less out of the KelTec than its older cousin, the Grendel. The Grendel had a 5-inch barrel. Sights are rear fixed. Again, kind of this plastic top cover arrangement. If you can see there's a few Allen bolts on the top cover bolts to the upper receiver. Looks as if maybe in future designs or future accessories that might be able to be removed and replaced with something else. I've seen pictures on the KelTec website of a red dot on one of these firearms. Picatinny rail here, as you can see. Front sight, another fiber optic dovetail front sight, so you can't adjust for elevation. You can adjust for windage. My weapon could keep an entire magazine in a smaller than a fist size group at 15 yards as well. However, it shot at 15 yards about 2.5 inches high, and so an adjustable sight would be a neat feature. Not really necessary, but it would be neat. The trigger is a little bit different than the Grendel. It's also a single action trigger, but this trigger here, although it's very smooth, in fact, it's one of the smoothest triggers I've ever utilized. It doesn't stack quite as steeply as the Grendel's trigger. This one probably breaks. It's advertised between 4 and 6. I think it's closer to 4 on this one. Excellent trigger. One you have to learn though, because like I said, it doesn't stack up and snap quite as crisply as the Grendel's trigger does. The function of the weapon, it's a blowback and a locked breech. So different pressure loads push it into different operating systems, which is kind of neat. It kind of gives a wider range of ammunition power, I guess, that would be reliable in the weapon. And I imagine you could probably use subsonic rounds in here if you wanted to, or even higher power rounds. And there's even some talk of some 22 Magnum pistol-specific ammunition in development with some of the major manufacturers. Today, I fired about 250 rounds of CCI out of it, all 40 grains. Some were full metal jacket, some were jacketed hollow point, 100% reliability, very accurate, excellent weapon. The magazine, like its older cousin, is also Zytel. Pretty nice looking magazine. One issue that I found though is I couldn't get more than 25 rounds in this. And I don't know if that's due to brand new springs and they've got to break in, or I'm getting older and I can't push that hard. But both magazines, about 25 rounds were the max, and then I felt like I might break it. So that might be something I talked to KelTec about. Accurate, reliable, and lastly, extremely light. At 13 ounces or 13.6 ounces unloaded, this feels like a toy. It's just unbelievably light. The weapon's about as large as a HKUSP, but probably a third the weight, and that makes for a great plinker, backpacking weapon, or a companion to a rifle. I'll get back to that here in just a second. For comparison sake, I wanted to show a box of 50 40 caliber 180 grain Ranger ammunition, and next to it here are 3 boxes of 50 for a total of 150 rounds of 22 Magnum ammunition. When I'm out in the woods, if I'm hunting, or even from a defensive standpoint, the handgun, when you've got a rifle, is just a backup. It's just a tool to get to that rifle. And you can carry a lot more stuff in lieu of ammunition when you're shooting a 22 Magnum. Not a whole lot of weight penalty there. Loaded, this comes in at under 20 ounces, so considerably less than even a Glock, a full-size Glock, which is known for being light. The 22 WRM out of this weapon is getting around 1,300 feet per second. You get a few more feet per second out of this 5-inch barrel in the Grendel, but the KelTec's, in the order of about 1,300 feet per second. I certainly hope that 22 Magnum manufacturers explore the potential of loads for a pistol round, so you're not throwing so much ejecta and wasted power right out the muzzle, because the muzzle flash and blast is pretty amazing out of this thing. At any rate, KelTec certainly, in my opinion, hit a home run with this. This weapon cost me about $370. Magazines on the KelTec website run about $26. For those of you who watch my reviews, you guys know I'm a fan of KelTec. And again, Mr. Kellgren has hit another home run. In closing, I'd like to add that KelTec 2011 third quarter will be putting out a carbine version of this weapon that uses evidently uses the same lower, uses the same magazines, has a collapsible stock. If folks want to look at the 2011 SHOT Show, you can see some pictures of that, and those might be a neat combination. At any rate, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you've got any questions, hit me up on the channel. Have a good one. Bye-bye.